What up, YouTube? It's Matty B. Welcome back to the channel, and as always, thank y'all very much for tuning in. I just can't thank y'all.
What an idiot!
This week in Supercross, we got a few topics to go into, as well as a preview for the Philadelphia Supercross this weekend. We're going to start off by talking about a potential Netflix series with one of the fan favorites of the sport that could not get access at the races. We'll talk a little bit about the broadcast and some of the issues they had last week, and how I think a lot of your hate and complaints are a little bit misdirected towards the wrong people. And then lastly, we'll do a little track breakdown and some predictions for this weekend's Supercross in Philadelphia for round 13. And we may just have another mutter on our hands combined with an East-West showdown. It's getting wilder by the weekend, and I really don't expect this weekend to be any different. But before I get too much further into the video, I got to give a huge thank you to my channel sponsors, because without them, I would not be able to keep this going. Remember, if you're supporting my sponsors, you're supporting me. Thank you to quickmoto.com. If you need a discount on a sweet set of graphics, backgrounds, canopies, or much more, use my code on screen for 20% off. Also, Sirius Studio, I'm now a partner in the company, so anything you buy with my code on screen, MB820, a small slice of that goes to me to help keep the channel going. And then last but not least, we just wrapped up my 450 bike waffle, so now my 252 stroke from the 2022 Pro Nationals is up next, and this is the bike I tied Sexton on at Unadilla, and you got a chance to win it for $100. So I have everything you need on screen and all the links in my video description. Hope y'all enjoy. All right, so first off, let's talk about the big one, and that is that there was a potential for a Netflix series following around one of the fan favorites of the sport, and they weren't even able to get access to do so, so now the project's kind of on hold. The other day, I was talking to a good friend of mine and a new business partner at Sirius Studio, now that I'm a partner in the company. And we were just talking about some other projects and things we'd been working on, and he happened to mention to me that he'd been working with some big-name TV producers and documentary producers that make documentaries and series for Netflix about other sports. But yeah, they were working on a Netflix documentary. They really wanted it to be kind of like Drive to Survive, which I'm sure a lot of y'all know that has absolutely exploded the fan base of F1. And they wanted to shoot the pilot at Daytona with Aaron Plessinger as the main character. And I mean, how can you beat that? There's not much of a better advocate for the sport than AP. The dude's a fan favorite. He's a genuine dude. He's definitely one of the best guys around. And I think it would be really cool to see the sport through AP's perspective, because in my opinion, I think Supercross is massively untapped potential. I think a lot of people just need to discover how great it is, the storylines behind it, and all the awesome people and riders and everyone that we have involved in the sport. It really is one of a kind. I'll never get away from it. And that's really, I think, all they're trying to do is they just want to show everybody how awesome Supercross is and try to grow the sport, try to grow the viewership. And unfortunately, they tried to get media access at Daytona and they were denied. And literally all they wanted was access. They didn't want any money. They didn't need any help. They just wanted access to be able to film on race day, to do a pilot episode with Aaron Plessinger, and they were denied. And really the only reason I really wanted to talk about this is just because it's very similar to the situation I've had in Supercross, where really all I want to do is share how awesome I think the sport is, and show and video how awesome I think the sport is, and try to show it in a unique way just to try to add to the sport. I'm not trying to take away from anybody else, and neither would this documentary. But unfortunately, they denied access, so right now the project's on hold, and really, my main feeling is just ignorance, because I just don't understand it, and I'm willing to admit it. You know, I'm sure Feld has the reasons why they don't want to do it, and I will also add that I've heard a lot of rumblings of another Netflix series, maybe surrounding Ken Roczen and Eli Tomac. So maybe they think, all right, we've already got somebody working on something, we don't need to. So that could be a line of thinking. But just my opinion, I feel like the more the merrier, the more eyeballs and the more things we can get portraying the sport, the better. And I think a documentary following around AP would be huge. I mean, that guy's personality is incredible. He's such a one-of-a-kind dude, and I really think he could be an awesome chaperone to get people into the sport if they follow along with him. So I want to ask y'all, what do you think? What do you think the possible reasons could be? Because I'm just some guy with a YouTube channel and an iPhone. I'm not going to sit here and claim like I know all the ins and outs of this stuff. Just my opinion. I feel like more things like that would grow the sport. And even with me getting shut down, I'm kind of over it. It's been a while, but it's just such a bummer because, I'm just a dude with an iPhone, and I just want to show people how awesome Supercross is. That's it. And for me, it was definitely no high dollar operation or anything like that. Like, just to give you a quick little perspective, the night before I got told I wasn't allowed to film anything at Supercross, I slept on the floor of the Dallas airport. Like, I'm not showing up flying first class, staying in the Holiday Inn Express and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I got my Loretta's trophy sitting on a damn foam roller, so nothing about this setup screams high dollar. Yeah, I do make some money, but for the most part, it's passion-based. I love the sport more than about anything except for Top Chick, my puppies, and my family. And I got told I'm just some dude with a mediocre following that they don't think has anything to offer. That is probably not going to ever get access unless I'm tied into an outlet, which is a bummer. I know I don't have a huge following. I don't have a million followers or anything out there. but I really feel like I have a good, unique perspective on the sport, especially, I live, eat, sleep, and breathe it. So I've always got something to say about it. And this is like the first thing about Supercross I think I've ever brought up that's been negative. Really, this channel oozes positivity. I don't like to be negative. This is not the kind of stuff I like to do on this channel, but I just had to talk about it because I feel like my specific situation also is related to it. And the last thing I'll touch on before I drop this is the one thing that really bums me out. I get it. There's a Peacock contract and NBC and all that. If you're just telling me I can't film the races and post that on YouTube, I understand that 1,000%. Totally get it. But the thing that bums me out is I was headed to SMX just to film on Friday where there was no streaming, no Peacock, none of that stuff. And I've now been told that I'm not allowed to video or film anything to do with the event at all. Apparently not the pits, not anything. So that's why when I went to Daytona, you guys didn't see any content from me. It is what it is. I'm definitely over it by now, and I'm not holding my breath for access. But it sure would be cool if real producers and real big names that could get a show on Netflix could actually get just a little bit of help and get some access on race day so they can produce a cool product to try to grow the sport and introduce new fans. And even AP being the awesome dude that he is, he had no part in not being able to get access for them. I'm sure he tried. And even he texted them right after and said, man, I'm sorry. I'm bummed that they did this to you guys. He was really excited on the project. It is what it is. Like I said, it's on hold right now. Maybe they'll do something with World Supercross. Maybe they'll do the outdoors, throwback to the great outdoors, the Moto Inside the Outdoors, and all those cool series. So maybe we'll see something like that. And me bringing up these points, none of this is supposed to be me being a Feld hater or anything like that. Really, they do an awesome job with a lot of stuff. They provide a series for everybody to race. I'm sure the logistics and everything behind the scenes is insane that they go through. Obviously, we all wish the riders would make more money, but let's be real. We all wish we could make more money in whatever we're doing. And they keep filling the gates, so it's really pretty simple supply and demand. But enough about that. Let's move on to some thoughts about the broadcast. So we all know the broadcast for Foxborough was a bit of a hot mess, a total dumpster fire, but it was a total quagmire mudfest out there. I mean, even somebody like me who follows the sport more than maybe anybody and watches every weekend, even I could barely tell who everybody was just because they were all covered in brown. And there was a lot of lack of going on. There was a few names mispronounced. Shout out to Dalton Braggs. That t-shirt is epic. Trolling RC on how he said your name wrong. The real big one for me comes at the end of the 450 main where really nobody knew what was going on. They were showing Roxon on his way supposedly to a podium. And then out of nowhere, right as they're about to show Roxon going across the line for what they think is third, then Cooper Webb just sneaks past 3 different people unbeknownst to any of them and snags the podium spot. And even RC, all he could say was, what is going on? And I know there's been a lot of RC and Lee Diffie hate lately. It's been easy to pile on. I know that's what everybody thinks is the fun thing to do right now. But really, in this instance, I don't think this is their fault because I talked to somebody who's been on the broadcast team who has some insight on this subject, and they said you're really, for the most part, told to just watch the screen because that's what the people are seeing. And then there's a spotter who should be paying attention to things that are shaping up on the track, maybe some battles that are materializing and watching live timing and really just cluing the announcers in on as to what's going on. And really, I think it was the spotter that was the letdown on this one because, like I said, RC and Lee Diffie, they're watching the screen and they're trying to figure out what's going on for the live audience. And whoever was spotting, they dropped the ball big time. And I get it. It's got to be so hard and pretty much impossible to do a perfect job spotting when it's that muddy. But you're on national television. It's got to be a good paying job. And it's like a super professional environment. So I feel like, kind of like Cooper Webb did on that last lap, I feel like you kind of got to find a way to be a little bit better than that. But I don't really think that had anything to do with RC or Diffie. I think that's more to do with the production team, along with the issue of showing AP doing the belly flop instead of that huge points battle. And even RC made mention while watching AP belly flop. He said, this is great. And then we've got a points battle. And, we're watching the belly flop instead of the points battle. So a little bit mixed up priorities there from the broadcast team, but I just think some of the hate has been a little bit misdirected. If they deserve it, fire away, but I don't think this one's their fault. But that's neither here nor there. Now let's get into a little track preview and some predictions for this weekend East-West Showdown, possible Mud National in Philadelphia. To be honest with you guys, I think I might have went a little overboard with this thumbnail. I think this is more of what last weekend's track map should have looked like, but a couple days ago the weather was a lot worse, which is when I made this picture, but I really don't think it'll be completely flooded out like this because when you look at the weather, starting with today, nice and sunny, not too warm, but clear skies all the way through the night, then into tomorrow. Then we'll have a small chance of rain starting in the early afternoon and then into Friday. Friday is where it looks like the most rain is going to be coming down. But we all know the SMX track crew or Dirtworks or whatever the hell they're called are going to be working their magic. They're going to have the track tarped up and they'll remove them on Saturday. So really the only thing that matters in terms of how bad of a mudder it'll be is how much rain we have on Saturday. And it says the total amount for the day is only 0.15 inches. So that is nothing the crew can't handle. So I don't foresee a huge mudder. Nothing like last weekend. I think it'll probably just be soft and rutted. Now onto the actual track for round 13 in Philadelphia. And it's a decent track. It's nothing too special, but it's got some good obstacles, some good rhythms. And really, kind of like what I said about Indy earlier this year, I don't think the layout is really going to be the topic of discussion. I think it's going to be the conditions, because especially with all the impending rain during the week, it's going to be soft and wet in between those transitions. So it's going to be rutted. It's going to be technical. And I don't think the big lines are necessarily going to be in the contract for these guys. But let's go ahead and get into it. Right in the middle, we got about a 2/3 stadium length start straight into a sweeping left-hand 180. And then this first rhythm right out of turn one, it'll be a little different off the start than it will be for the rest of the laps. But off the start, I'm thinking you roll in and then just 2-2-2, maybe 2-3-1 if you're out front. But for the rest of the laps, you have a little run up to it. So maybe you'll be able to wheelie scrub over that little roller single in and then 3-3. But due to the fact that these jump faces are probably going to have so many lines in them, they're going to look like corduroy pants. I'm thinking it's just going to be roll in and then double, a peg dragging triple off the 5-footer and then a single out into a 180 bull turn to the right. Looks like they got a couple extra nets in there on the track map for my guy Chase Curtis. I bet he wishes he had those in Arlington. But look for guys like Cooper Webb to thrive in these, because you know they're going to get rutted, and turning down lower and lower is going to be rewarded throughout the night. And then out of the bull turn into our second consecutive rhythm to start the track. This one's a little bit longer, and my best guess on what rhythm they might be doing, I'm thinking they're going to be doubling out of the corner and then triple, step over the tabletop, and then triple out. Maybe if conditions are better than we're expecting, they can triple out of the corner and then triple again, quad the tabletop over the two singles, and then single out, but I'm not really holding my breath on that one. And then one thing to watch for, as you exit this rhythm, you head into a 90-degree right-hander, but exiting that corner is only a basic Supercross triple, so you don't really need a big wide run-up for that. So I think it'll be key to see who can jump out of the rhythm section, hold that inside tight, and then still get that Supercross triple through the ruts, of course. But this section could very likely be some serious follow the leader national, because you could hold the inside in the 90, basic Supercross triple, and then after the Supercross triple, it looks like about a 135-degree corner or so. So I don't really see the potential for much passing through here unless the track gets as gnarly as I'm expecting. There's going to be ruts everywhere. So really, I'm thinking a lot of the passing is going to be dictated by mistakes. But out of that corner, then you rip under the bridge. Looks like you got a little bit of an offset single back onto the start straight backwards. And then this section continues to contribute to the one-line nature of this track, because you could just hold the inside, down the start straight backwards, and then you've got a left-hand sweeper into a rhythm section and yet another left-handed corner. So this is the left-handed NASCAR National. So again, I'm really holding out on some gnarly conditions, spicing things up, but a lot of these sections are not really lending themselves to passing. But out of this flat left-handed sweeper, we got another rhythm section. In an ideal world, I'm thinking you go step over the tabletop and then triple and triple out. But as the track deteriorates and by the time main events come around, I'm thinking the line might be step on, step off, triple, double, or maybe even step on, step off, double, triple. The ideal line could change by the lap, but out of that rhythm into another left-handed 180, we got some nets, no choice, and then on the map, we've got a double into the whoop section. But if the new rule is in effect that they've started this year, where they say no jumps or obstacles before the whoops, then I'm going to have to predict that this is going to get reversed, and I think it's going to be the whoops into the double. And really, as a fan, I don't like this at all. I really love when the entrance speed and the balls descended into the whoops is rewarded, like we saw in Tampa with Malcolm Stewart. But I think this is just going to make it to where you come out of the corner and you go 3-3-3 through the whoops and then hit the little double out. So I think this rule is going to hurt the racing. Maybe they'll reevaluate in the coming weeks or years, but we still got 9 whoops, so I don't really know. But then we got a 180-degree bull turn to the right into the finish line, basic double as always. Land the finish line, you got a couple of little rollers, maybe a little speed check double, and then into a step up over the bridge. And as basic as these things look, they are so steep, they're about impossible to walk up. So with the ruts and conditions that are expected for the weekend, even a jump like this could be a seriously technical aspect to the track. But over the bridge, if you survive it and you don't do a K-dub transfer onto the flat beside it, and then we got the sand section. I feel like this has been the year of the sand in Supercross. We've seen them almost every weekend. The riders hate them, but the good thing for us fans, I feel like they've worked out really well. There's always been multiple lines, and it's provided some good racing. But out of the sand, a little roller, maybe you could wheelie over it, maybe you launch it, and you're right back into the first rhythm off the start. And that's a lap for round 13 in Philly. Gonna be chilly. Now, onto the Prediction National. We'll start with the 250 class because we got an East-West showdown, baby. It's going to be good. And for the win, I got him getting redemption. I'm actually going to go with Tom Vial. I think he's going to make himself the 7th consecutive winner in this 250 East class. And despite last weekend's disaster, I think he knows it's time to put the nose to the grindstone. He's got to make it happen now. And the dude's a former champion in MX2 in the GPs, a 2-time champion actually, so he knows the deal. He knows how to win championships, and I think the conditions are going to suit him very well. In the second spot, spot, I'm going to go with the Kiwi, Cole Davies, continuing his momentum after his first win in Seattle. And I think it'd be really cool if we saw a Vial, Davies, and then who I'm picking for third, Hammaker. Be cool to see an East-West battle. We didn't really get a whole lot of that at the last showdown. But being that Davies crushed it in Seattle, I feel like conditions will be similar, so I think he'll be good at this one. And then Hammaker for the third spot. He won in Indy, so I know he'll be good. I'm just kind of flip-flopping him and Vial. I think it's kind of Vial's time to finally get one of these damn things. I mean, he's running the number 1 plate. But then we'll switch over to the 450 class. For the win, I'm going with the number 2, Cooper Webb. Like I just said about Davies, I think it's going to be similar conditions to Seattle. And Cooper Webb owns these guys in those conditions. He'll be turning down low in the berms. And hell, he might even be 6th when the white flag flies and just mysteriously pop up as the winner. In the second spot, I'm going with Aaron Plessinger. I was about to say Chase Sexton, but I just have a feeling we're going to see another Webb-Sexton battle down to the line, and I feel like these conditions might force Sexton into a mistake. I really hope I'm wrong. That's not what I'm hoping to see, but I've got Aaron Plessinger continuing his momentum and landing back on the box in the second spot, with Chase Sexton rounding out the podium in third. But like I always say, let me know your predictions in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm out to lunch, if you agree, or anything in between. And thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll catch y'all next time.